Welcome to Winning Inside, the show where we follow the journey from feeling defeated to winning. Here are your hosts, Cheddy Matthews and Michelle Wickman.
Hello, amazing people. Welcome to the Winning Inside podcast, where we discuss real issues, insights, and solutions to help you thrive in your day-to-day lives.
We know life happens, and we can choose to be a spectator or a participant. Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well out there. I have on me on the show today, Michelle Wickman, the phenomenal Michelle Wickman, and of course, me, Cheddy Matthews. We are here with Winning Inside, and we are looking forward to talking about today's topic. And this is an interesting topic because this is something that is so personal to me because as you may have heard me say before, and as Michelle knows, I am a recovering people pleaser. What the heck is that? I am a person who had a hard time saying no to people. And the funny thing about that is you realize that people who would want you to say yes all the time seem to find people who say yes all the time. So I found myself being overused for other people's purposes and not my own. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And we're going to talk about the fact that I'm a recovering people pleaser. And what does that mean? Because that means that I am no longer a people pleaser. So Michelle, where are we going with this today? This is an interesting topic.
Yeah, well, so I think I mentioned to you, I actually have a post that I'll probably share tonight. Mm-hmm. And it's about people pleasing. Mm-hmm. And of course, in the last week, I've seen messages about people pleasing. I've had a conversation with somebody about people pleasing, one of my clients about people pleasing.
Wow.
And so it's weird that this theme has been around. And so of course I was like, listen, do you want to do this now? Because I know this is you. This is personal to you. And you were all about it, of course.
Yes.
So yeah, people pleasing is such an interesting thing. And now I want to make the distinction early on that people pleasers have a tendency to say yes. But that doesn't mean that people who say yes are people pleasers. So I want to make that distinction.
Good one.
Right? Yeah. There are certainly people who have a tendency to say yes because they have a fear of missing out. Mm-hmm. Right? Or they have a tendency to say yes just because they're like, they love to be super active and it's like invigorating to be involved in a bunch of different activities and so on and so forth. And then there's the people pleasing yes, which is more about being afraid of not being liked.
Yeah. Yeah. And not being liked, not being loved, not being cared for, not being whatever it is. It doesn't come from a place of willingness per se, or excitement to do something, or just activity. It comes from a place of lack, for lack of a better term. It's a fear of losing someone's love. I mean, that's honestly where that comes from. I don't know how we get it, but when I think about it, it reminds me of when we used to talk about fight or flight. Then it graduated to fight, flight, freeze. And nowadays, if you see some people, they'll tell you fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. I think it's the fawn in that. I think it's you just trying to pander to be okay so that you don't get in any trouble or have any issue or any conflict with people. So you learn to kind of fawn and be what they need and do everything for them and be a helper. And it became such a part of, in my example, it became such a part of my identity that I thought that was like a cornerstone of who I am. I help people. I'm here to help. I help people. I just want to be a help. I just want to help people. And I would say that. But sometimes doing things for others isn't helping them. It's enabling maybe, but not necessarily helping. It's definitely not empowering. And I wasn't helping to empower. I was helping to help, which makes people dependent on you, which now makes you feel like you're important to that person. It's this weird, unhealthy cycle that I started to see in my life. And I started to realize that was how it was for me. People please for different reasons. And you want to know, nothing's wrong with doing things for others, nothing at all. But you want to know why you're doing those things. You really want to know why.
So I think that ultimately people pleasers tend to have a low sense of self-worth, right? And maybe even an unclear sense of personal identity. So they sort of want to go with the flow constantly and then make sure that, like the yes is so that the other person who they're saying yes to is not dependent upon them, but is like they're happy, right? It's like they're saying yes to make somebody else happy to the detriment of their own resources, time, energy,
Yes.
mental, physical energy, all of those things, right?
Yep.
So it's people pleasers are wonderful human beings who have the quality of empathy and compassion, but they take that past the point to the detriment of themselves and really losing their own authentic self because they're all constantly deferring to other people. So
Yes.
a lot of times you'll see it as like over apologizing or over taking responsibility for other people's actions, even, right? If somebody gets mad, you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. What did I do? Before you even know what happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is people pleasing.
Yeah.
It's somebody who has the inability to establish strong boundaries. It's, if you're feeling exhausted more than invigorated because of all the commitments that you made, it's because you're having a tendency to say yes through your people pleasing trait.
On the outside, Michelle, it sounds and looks so good. I mean, it looks so virtuous. Like you always wear it like a badge of honor. I'm so tired. Why are you so tired? I'm tired because I've been helping this person. I had to go over here. I had to do this. And you're doing all the things. So you want to give yourself these little gold stars and these little badges and say, I did a good job today. I'm a good person. And part of it was for me, and I like to talk about me because it can be different for many people, but I want to give you an example. For me, it made me feel like this is a part of my self-worth. I am valued. It made me feel valuable to be needed or to help. It felt like my life had some kind of a purpose. But the purpose that I had for my life was outsourced to other people. That's a red flag in and of itself. I was outsourcing my purpose to other people, which is great if they have your best intentions in mind. But if they don't, you're kind of stuck. And that was when I started to realize that people pleasing isn't always the way, because some people will take your kindness and your generosity and they will run roughshod over your life with that. And that happened to me. And then I at some point I realized when the smoke cleared, it was just me left with my willingness to help people. And I didn't realize all the damage I was doing to myself and to other areas of my life that I thought were important or that I valued. So there's a cost to that. There's a cost that comes with people pleasing. And a lot of that cost comes from you saying yes to someone else can be you saying no to the things that are important in your own life. And you've got to determine what you want to do to determine the value in your life. And I'll go into that one later. All right, I'll go into it now. I'll do it now then.
Well, I think the other aspects, like the detriment or the results that you oftentimes see, is one, burnout.
Yeah.
Right. So like Cheddy, you and I had multiple conversations about that over the course of the last year and a half.
Yes.
Multiple conversations around like, you are doing too much.
Yeah.
Right. And yet the other thing as well is like, why is this benefiting you? You always have to ask yourself, what part of you is this benefiting? Because even as you're people pleasing, or even as you're helping other people, what part of you is this benefiting? And what we're seeing oftentimes is that there's this level of discomfort because saying yes has become such a habit. I don't want to say trying, but you made a comment of like, almost like martyrdom, right?
Yep.
Like you're just like, I will be there for anybody, anytime. I'm dependable. I'm that person. And I don't want to take away from the people who really are that's what it is. Like they do genuinely want to help other people. And what part of you is it helping? And what, through some research around people pleasing, what they found is like, you've created a habit of saying yes.
Yeah.
So it's like a deeply ingrained habit of saying yes, no matter what the cost is to yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And with that, at the end of the day, there's this like undercurrent of resentment, burnout, right? Like you're holding on to that and taking that home with you. So the ramifications of that is oftentimes within your inner circle.
Yes.
So outwardly, you're just like, hey, I'm here. I've got it. I can be here for you. And like, I like literally am picturing you, Cheddy,
Yeah.
as I'm even describing this, right? And you're volunteering to help these different businesses. You're, offering guidance and mentorship for free. And because you're just like, I love helping people. And I'm like, I love that you love helping people. And
I like to say and. I love how you say and.
yeah. And you're starting to miss your appointments. You're starting to show up and you're just super low energy. And it's like where you're losing kind of the magic of who you are.
Yeah.
And that's where it's just like, thank God that we have that open dialogue that I could just be like, Cheddy, what the hell is happening?
Yeah. Yep.
And I think it took like, I don't know, 9 months of talking to you about it before you're finally like, I got to cut some of these things off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, man. Like, and here's the thing. It wasn't like cutting them off and just saying like, no, I don't want to help you anymore. I don't want any part of this. I don't like you. It was none of that stuff. And guess what? Those organizations, those people, they carried on and they were just fine.
Just fine. Just fine. Yes. Once you realize that, you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not that special. But it goes beyond that. It's when you say no, and this is one of the things that I realized, saying no always had a connotation. It was almost like, no, screw you, go away, I don't like it. It had all these other things. And I realized, no, because it really felt to me like if I'm saying no, it meant I don't care. And I'm thinking it's because I associated people saying yes and doing things for you with a level of care. But I realized saying no to a certain thing that's external to me, like somebody wants me to do something and I say no, it's really saying yes to me and my time and my value. What that has enabled me to do is to realize that if I am a person of value, which I am, as you are too, listeners, if you're a person of value, you cannot be available at all times to all people. You just cannot. Because if you do that, you have devalued yourself. Your personal brand has been devalued. You are now a commodity, which means you're going to go to the lowest bidder. There is very low value in what you offer. And as a person of value, I'm providing a disservice to the people who are paying for my value. Once I realized that, I could not be available for everything and everyone.
Yeah. And on one side, you're talking about actually paying for your time, right? Like there's a transaction of monetary value, but on the other hand, there's also a transaction of like non-tangible, non-monetary value,
ding
right?
And ding.
So even that is totally acceptable. But like what Cheddy did was like truly just pour himself into various organizations. And, he would show up and say, well, I hope it pans out. Something pans out sometime. And I was like, no, we're stopping this right now. And but you're just like, but I have time. And I'm like, but do you? Because that's what I want you to ask yourself too, dear listener. Like, do you really have, and because time is finite, it is the only resource that is truly finite.
Yes.
Right? Like you cannot get time back, period. Money, you can't actually get money back. You can create more money.
Yeah.
Right? Your physical energy, you can get that back too. Yep. But time is completely finite. And so how do you want to invest that time of your life? And if that is in people pleasing because you're afraid of their reaction, or you're afraid of the guilt or the shame or any other negative emotion that comes up after you've said no, trust me, that emotion will go away. It subsides, right? And it's really just coming from a thought. And you shared with us your thought, Cheddy, which is that you associated no with bad.
Yeah.
right? Because it's the opposite of yes is because I care. So no means I don't care. No means screw you.
Yeah.
So I'm saying screw you when I say no was a thought that came up and you felt terrible. So your action was to say yes, 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 yes all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So know that those negative emotions will subside. And that is part of this process from curing yourself from people pleasing, essentially.
Yeah.
Is just being okay with feeling your feelings. And you will hear us say this all the time on various podcasts because we as a society have learned to not become aware of our emotions, and that when they show up, we react to them instead of using our sort of conscious brain, right? Using our prefrontal cortex to make our decisions. We're reacting. And you mentioned the fight, flight, freeze and fawn.
Yep.
And you went to fawn as a negative, or a reaction to a negative trigger, which is that emotion within. You're like, oh my God, like I feel guilty. Okay, I see it. Yes. Yes, I will do it. I will be there. I mean, this man was driving like 50 miles each day at the minimum to go to see various people each, like unbelievable how you were all over the city doing various things for various people. And I just would like shake my head and say, I care about you. And I see that this is harming you, dude. It's enough.
It was funny how you've been saying it. It was a blind spot. I didn't even notice it. And you know what was the trigger for me to realize it? I think we've talked about this too. The prices of gas went up. And I was like, wait, what? How much did it cost to fill up a tank? And I got that shock a few times. And I remember being at the pump saying, this is disrespectful. And somebody else laughed at their pump. And I was like, what am I like? I'm putting race fuel in my car. Like my car better go like 10 miles per hour faster than it did before I put this gas in there. Like I was hot. And I think that trigger made me say, why am I doing this? And I realized that this isn't helping you, dude. Like, so it helped me to reassess. And in that, one thing that I learned, Michelle, was that when there's a request that comes in, my habit is when you say something to say yes. And part of that comes from the Marine Corps. But even in the Marine Corps, you got to slow it down and not say yes straight away. But I was saying yes so quick that it was almost a response. What I've done now, just like when it comes to anger and being triggered in other areas, because it's a trigger, is I pause and I give it a few seconds and I give it, even though I want to say yes, I'll hold it. Even if it's something I want to do, I hold off on saying yes straight away. A, to change the habit, and B, to give them enough space to think and assess, do I really want to do this? Does this benefit me? Does it benefit them? Does it benefit all parties involved? Am I the best resource for this? Do they need my time? Do they need my advice? Can I just outsource it? Can I give them something? Can I show them where to go? And all of these things come up in my mind of how I can help you in the way that I want to help you. Or do I just wish you the best and part as friends? So you give yourself options and you realize sometimes go in there in the way that they want you to go there or do something in the way they want you to do it may not be the right thing for you or for them. And it's enabled me to have the power of saying no. And then now the no isn't the no the way it was like, screw you, I don't like you. It wasn't that negative connotation. It was strategically, this is not the best thing for either of us. I'm not aligned with this. This is not the best use of my talent. This is not the best thing for you. This may benefit you, but it doesn't benefit me and I'm not aligned with this. Or whatever it is, but I have now a way of saying no. And there's no guilt in saying no. Do you understand how new this is? This feeling of, I go home and I sleep. I'm not worried about the fact that I said no, because I used to worry about saying no and I'd have the guilt for it.
Yeah.
And I've said no and done yes for much of my life. Where I would say no, I'm not going to do that, and end up doing it because you muse on it and you ruminate and like, yeah, you know what, maybe that person really needs it. I really should help them. I've got the time to do it. I can really do this. It won't be hard for me. I got it.
So you broke your own boundaries.
I used to break my own boundaries. Yeah, nowadays, not so much. But I didn't realize it. Again, you don't realize it at the time, but taking that pause, the value of pausing just to reassess, is this aligned with my mission? And I focus on that now. Does this promote my life's purpose? And that's one of the things I tell myself now in that pause. Does this promote my life's purpose? And if it doesn't, I'm not doing it. Not doing it. And part of the reason for that is what you said, Michelle, time. Nobody's exempt from it. It comes and it goes, and I don't want to waste it on the things that aren't adding value to my purpose of being on this earth.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I I love that. I have sort of a 4-step process for assessing or for this like transitioning from being a people pleaser to learning how to not people please, and my first step is pause. So, and we didn't even talk about this. So it's so true. You just have to pause. Somebody asks you if they send you a text message, if they send you an email, if they're asking you in person, just pause.
Yep.
And the thing that I recommend to my people pleasers is to say no as the first word of your response.
Yes.
Because what we hear a lot is, I'm so sorry. I can't make it. Right. And I actually, this may be like midway, mid-range. It may be, the second phase of your people pleasing recovery.
Yes.
But starting with the word no, so that the first word that both of you hear is no.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can say, if you want to qualify that, like, I don't think it's going to work for my schedule. Unfortunately, it does not work for my schedule.
Yeah.
You can say, maybe we can make something work next time.
Yeah.
But we're going to practice saying no first as the first word that comes out of your mouth, and also practice not apologizing.
Yep.
That is the thing that, and I know there's a cultural and societal component to saying I'm sorry, but one concern that people pleasers have is like taking responsibility for other people's feelings. And you have to practice not doing that. And this is part of that practice is however they receive that no is on them. It has nothing to do with you. So that apology in advance it's an excess, right? And if you're not comfortable with that, while it's the first few times that you're saying no, you can apologize, but get to the point where you can just say no, I don't want to do that. Like, that's fine. No, I don't feel like hiking this weekend. No, I don't want to go out to eat because I'm not drinking and I have a tendency to want to drink when I go out with my friends, whatever your no reasons are, you can share or not share, but just practice saying no. So it is a practice because it's become such a habit to say yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And I love that you said, I've said no and then did yes many times. That is another thing that people pleasers do is we break our own boundaries or we allow others to break our boundaries.
Yeah.
And with that, when that happens, it continuously depletes your confidence around your own boundaries.
Yes.
It depletes your own self-worth. Even as you're working on building it, it can diminish it at the same time. So there are these implications, larger, greater implications to people pleasing than just being tired or burned out or stressed with your time and constrained with your resources. These ramifications can be much larger and deeper and start to spread out into other areas of your life as well.
Exactly. Wow. That is, if for no other reason, the fact that this can spread into other areas of your life, the fact that it really can devalue you innately so that you show up as a less valued person to yourself and others, should be like 2 major reasons why you really consider this. And the 4-step process, Michelle, I think that's pretty phenomenal. Just going through a process to help us to navigate these troubled waters, because there are so many people that get into this. I realized, I thought it was just me, and I hear people talking about it, I'm like, wow, there's another one. Oh, snap, there's another one.
Oh yeah. No, it's trending. I swear it's trending
my gosh,
right now.
In the wrong
totally
way.
Forgot the last 2 steps. So step 1 is pause. Step 2 is say no and don't apologize. Step 3 is feel the discomfort that's going to be there wherever it is in your body. If you're feeling that shame or you're feeling that guilt, there is a sensation or vibration in your body. That is the emotion that is being created from you saying no and what you're thinking about saying no, right? Like Cheddy thought, this means I don't like them or I don't care about them.
Yes.
Right. And so he's thinking that and he's feeling guilt and shame. But ultimately, that feeling of guilt and shame, as he also mentioned, is goes away over time. And now he's practiced saying no, and that guilt is no longer there. He may have like a little tinge of it, but it goes away so much more quickly than it ever has before.
Yeah.
And those are the 4 steps. It's like, feel that sensation wherever it is in your body. And rather than try to avoid it by saying yes instead, or avoid it by turning to your phone and looking at social media, or avoid it by, eating or whatever it is, just let that sensation be there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
That 4th step is something that you can use in all areas of your life. Instead of avoiding feeling emotions, both good and bad, recognize it for what it is, that sensation in your body, and allow it to be there, knowing that this time will pass.
I like that. I like the whole "this time will pass" thing, because this does get easier over time. I feel like the more I do it, the more resistant my body gets to it. So we're at the point now, I feel like I'm honoring the person more by saying no when it's a no than saying yes and doing it half-heartedly or doing it with any kind of reluctance or resistance. And it's when I say yes, I'm all in. When I say no, I'm not in. Doesn't mean I don't support you. Doesn't mean I don't love you. So the energy is still good. And I can leave a no situation and keep la-di-da in my day. La-di-da, life is still good. Keep it moving. And before, it was, if I said no, it was this haunting, looming guilt just leaning on my shoulder. That doesn't exist anymore. But the tinge you were talking about, that little, should I say yes? Yeah, I still get that. I'm like, no, you made the right decision, and I keep it moving. And it's interesting how that voice used to be so loud and so resonant, just consuming. And now that voice is just a little whisper. Hey, shouldn't you have said yes to that? Like, no. And I can just respond. And I respond so quick now that it's so no. It's so matter of fact. I can just say no and keep it moving, and I don't dwell on it, and I can focus my thoughts on other things. So I love that. And Michelle, thank you for sharing these 4 steps, because I think I do these without knowing I'm doing them. But I remember when I was able to say no as a first response. I also remember not apologizing. That was a big one for me, because my excuse, you were talking about that earlier, but my excuse is, I'm British. We're so polite. We apologize for everything. Total rubbish, and it is a lame excuse, and I'm not using it anymore. But that was the excuse I used to cover up and disguise and dress up my people pleasing. So if you're a people pleaser, look at the notes, look at some of the things you can do, speak to us, reach out, let us know that we're not the only people that were people pleasers, or at least I'm not the only person that's a recovering people pleaser. And honestly, it's something that you can get through. And if you've enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe, follow, share, and most importantly, use whatever adds value to your amazing life.
And remember, even if life puts barriers in our way, we are still moving forward. Sign in again for a new episode of Winning Inside.
Thank you for listening to Winning Inside with Cheddy Matthews and Michelle Wickman. If you enjoyed today's show, please make sure to click the follow button, rate and review at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can connect with Cheddy and Michelle at winninginside.io. Keep listening. Another episode is coming soon.